The Hog Sty is brought to you by TicketClub.com, your one-stop shop for live events nationwide. Whether you're looking for game, theater, or live performance tickets, don't sweat it. TicketClub.com has you covered. So make sure you're going there for all your live entertainment needs, and make sure you're clicking over to them from the banner at the top of thehogsty.com.
By fans, for fans, the Hog Style. And now, here's your host, Sean Conti.
Well, that was disappointing, wasn't it, everybody? I mean, we kind of expected a loss, but it was just not a very exciting game, not a lot of big plays. Old, boring, 80s style, everyone's just running the ball a lot type football, a couple passes here and there, but not a lot going on here. Not what we expected indoors.
Welcome
Kirk
to the
Cousins
Hog
supposed to be
Style,
hot.
By the way, that was Alex. I'm Steve. Jamal's with us. Sean's out.
Yep.
I'm here somewhere.
Yeah, okay, so Redskins, Vikings, went about as expected. The Redskins put up a valiant fight in the first half at least. You got to give them that much. They didn't look completely awful. They were in it more or less in the first half.
Sure.
But this, I don't know. The offense just, I don't even know what to say about the offense.
The
They're
offense
just
is
totally incompetent.
the most uninspired, leaderless, rudderless offense I've seen in years.
It's the worst Redskins offense I've ever seen.
That's a bold statement. I had to think about it as soon as you said it, and it's kind of hard to really disagree. You think about the Rex Grossman offense, and then you think about the John Beck offense. Who can, he had 2 games where he was literally, it was one of the worst sights possible.
Sure.
But just to get back on track, that's just something it's very relevant. It's one of the worst offenses that we have seen in some time. And it was overall just a weird game. I can't really explain it. And truth be told, it was kind of weird knowing that Case Keenum didn't play that good. However, once he got hurt, you realize, well, damn, I'll take Case Keenum back if it was going to give us a chance. And I don't even know what the numbers were in the second half in terms of how many possessions we had. But I don't think we had many. No. And then secondly, we rarely had the ball in the second half. As you can see, that fourth quarter I think was all Minnesota.
Yeah, that's
okay,
true.
So let me run over the numbers here real fast. Case Keenum, who only played 2 quarters, was 12 for 16 for 130 yards. Quarterback rating 98.4, no touchdowns, no interceptions. He did have the 1 fumble there in the first quarter. Dwayne Haskins played the third and fourth quarter, was 3 for 5 for 33 yards, 2 sacks, a quarterback rating of 40, 1 interception. Adrian Peterson had a decent night, had a pretty darn good night, frankly. 14 carries, 76 yards, long of 29. Wendell Smallwood, 2 for 9. The leading receiver was Terry McLaurin, 4 receptions, 39 yards. By the way, between Keenum, the team net passing yards was 131 yards net. That nets out the sacks. So
right.
That was
and it's
really
around 160 if you're not doing net.
It was specifically 163.
Okay.
Yeah, doing a little bit of math there. So Terry McLaurin, leading receiver, 4 for 39. Paul Richardson, 3 for 34. Adrian Peterson, 2 for 27. Trey Quinn, 1 for 15. Hale Hentages, welcome to the Redskins, 1 for 13. Kelvin Harmon had 1 reception, 12 yards. Jeremy Sprinkle, 2 for 12. And Wendell Smallwood, 1 for 11. On the Minnesota side, Kirk Cousins was 23 for 26, 285 yards. Quarterback rating of 112.3, 3 sacks. Dalvin Cook ended up being the monster we all feared. 23 carries, 98 yards. But more importantly, he also had 73 yards receiving on 5 receptions.
Yeah.
Alexander Madison, who knew? He came in and did pretty darn good for his own part. 13 carries, 61 yards. And the leading receiver overall, obviously, was Stephon Diggs. We'll get to him. 7 receptions, 143 yards. And it goes down from there. I'm not going to bore everybody with every number there. On defense, the sacks, John Bostic had a sack. Jonathan Allen had a sack. Matt Ioannidis had a sack. The leading tackler, again, was Landon Collins, 11 total, 6 solo. Bostic had 9. And then Allen, Holcomb, and Payne all had 7s. And that is stats. Oh, and, of course, we've got to go over punting, as always. Only 2 punts for Trust this week. 2 punts, 107 yards. Yeah, I know. The offense outgained the punter. So we've made progress, people.
Yay.
I wonder how many punts the Vikings had.
That
None.
would be 0, Jamal.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That is crazy. But no, that's what I was saying. It was a weird game because you kind of didn't. This is actually, I was thinking about this as the game was going on. It was kind of similar to the Niners game. If it made it went by so quick in a good way for us, knowing that we're 1 the Redskins are 1-6. You're like, all right, let's get this game over with. But at the same time, it's like I don't understand how you can be so inefficient yet. The game goes by so quickly. There is a lot of running. Obviously, the clock is going to go down when you have a coach like Bill Callahan who emphasizes the running, and it just helps when you have a guy on the other side, and Zimmer who wants to do the same thing. And his play calls revolve around screens, which the Redskins couldn't stop, and then the run game where Dalvin Cook is just his footwork is elite, breaks out. A lot of bad. Well, he makes a lot of negative plays and turns them into a good one. And then the backup running back, who the Redskins struggled to contain towards the end as well. It kind of went down the same way where the Redskins just could not stop them in the end towards the fourth quarter. Well, in the fourth quarter at all.
Yeah.
But they couldn't stop Dalvin generally. They couldn't stop him. But it was just a weird game in my opinion.
Yeah, it was a weird game, and the Vikings showed that they had no respect for the Redskins. They went for it on 4th and 1 from their own 30-yard line.
Right, and it paid off.
Totally unafraid, yet paid off. I think the Vikings always knew how this is going to turn out. I don't think the Vikings coaching staff is going to be overly happy with their performance, considering they only scored 19 points. But this game was never in doubt, ever.
No.
Okay, so Redskins offense, the first half under Case Keenum, amazingly, what struck me at the beginning of the game is this is a much more balanced game plan. The very first play action.
Yes. And actually a very nice play action right over the middle.
It was. Yeah, exactly. It worked. At the end of it all, it was 21 dropbacks or 21 passes, 16 rushes. I thought the game plan went pretty well. Just the team is just ineffective and can't do it. But, it was a much more creative game plan from Bill Callahan and company. It actually looked like an offense that was in the 21st century.
I don't know about 21st, maybe late 20th at this point finally. But the thing that they've been struggling with it all year, they still don't seem to have a single play package designed for when you're at the 5-yard line or within to get the ball in the end zone. We saw it twice with Keenum in there. The pass plays they're drawing up are these long developing pass plays. There's no quick out, quick seam route. None of that stuff is going in there.
Well,
and
I
then,
have a thought.
Yeah.
Why don't we have this running back who's going to be in the Hall of Fame, and we have a fullback.
Right. Hold on. What is a running back? I'm writing this down. Hold on. Okay.
Okay. We have a running back who's going to be in the Hall of Fame. We have a fullback. Why don't you just line up, hit the A gap, and see if it works?
Well, okay. So is this out of shotgun like they tried, or is this in some other?
No, it would not be out of shotgun.
with a fullback.
Yeah.
You know what that's going to be.
Yeah.
But
Alex is being facetious, but yeah.
Yeah.
If people need to be told I'm being facetious, that's a problem.
Where it's kind of weird is that when you're looking at Callahan, all of a sudden, when you're in these situations, you're not really. When I'm talking these situations being in short down and distances, specifically in the red zone, it's kind of weird because you're not seeing what he did when he was under Gruden in terms of like just power or straight dives, things like that in these type of situations where you're seeing more so. Like last week, you saw trickery trying to get deceive the defense, and then this one you're not necessarily just utilizing Adrian Peterson and what he does best. I don't know if you're just out tricking yourself or out fooling yourself, but you just got to be a little bit smarter. And that's something for Callahan, who apparently is being evaluated for the head coach position. According to reports prior to the game starting, so he needs to be a little bit smarter.
I do have some thoughts on that, actually, Jamal. It's what I realized. I heard this on NFL Network, so that's the credit who pointed this out tonight. Peterson had 20 carries in a row the past 3 games.
Yeah,
and I think they said that nobody his age has ever had 4 games in a row of 20 carries or more. So maybe this was Callahan intentionally being a bit judicious with Peterson's health, and that's why the game plan sort of was what it was today.
it could be. Well, I'm going to just say real quick, Sean has joined us. So, hey, Sean, welcome to the show.
Hey, everybody. Don't mind me. I'm just lurking here in the background.
It would have been much funnier if you had just jumped in and started talking.
Well, we're going to try and be professional radio people.
This is what happens. You're 5 minutes late. You got to jump onto the moving train. That's
Right.
how it works. No, carry on. Don't mind me.
Okay, so anyway, first half, a balanced game plan. It was a honest, forthright effort, I thought. And then when
We were tied up till the 2-minute warning. I mean,
and first of all, the Redskins, like we were just saying, they're just terrible, atrocious in the red zone, and it's only going to get worse. But let's be honest, the elephant in the room here is Dwayne Haskins came in at the start of the third quarter.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he looked terrible.
He did.
He was holding the ball way too long. Troy Aikman had a really good input, if you guys noticed, on the interception. Said he dropped his elbow. That's what caused the ball to sail. That's what you get when you have a Hall of Fame quarterback studying this stuff instead of, idiots like us. But he just wasn't – you could just tell he was just kind of discombobulated, didn't see the field very well. Overall, looks like he needs a lot of practice.
Yeah.
And the offense, more importantly, was totally ineffective with him. Basically.
Yeah, it didn't look good. And my gosh, he really sucked the energy out of the room with an interception like that. Wasn't his only poorly thrown ball that should have been picked off of the night. Just super sloppy. Forcing it into tight windows. Lots of risks getting taken. But what do you expect from somebody with one year of starting experience? This is exactly what you would expect. This doesn't throw me at all in thinking about Haskins and his development. It doesn't
throw me, but it does concern me more and more that we're talking about a guy who's supposed to be, he's a first-round pick. You want to see a little something more. And the fact that I look at this and I think back to the Giants game, I don't feel like there's been any progress. And, he's taken more first-team reps between now and then at this point.
Well, look, here's the the thing is, I agree with you, first of all, Alex, it looked about the same. He got away with another one, that kind of sidearm thing he threw at Adrian Peterson should have been intercepted, and he got away with that one.
Yep.
But, it's really tough to evaluate a kid like this when you come in the second half of games. One of them's on Thursday night. You're facing an elite team. It's not like they've put him in a position to succeed, and they didn't want him to play at all. Case Keenum did not get pulled, in case you guys didn't notice. He had a concussion, or at least was being evaluated for concussion. So it's not like they ever wanted this to happen. And so I'm with Sean. It doesn't concern me. Sorry, Jamal, go ahead.
No, it's fine. There's two things that you pointed to that I want to speak on. The first thing is actually I agree, because I was trying to agree with Sean that the pass that he threw to Peterson, it should have been intercepted.
I thought it was.
And that was one of the things that you're saying he's forcing passes to and just in wrong times, and then just no-nos in general. But he's forcing those passes, and these are the same things that he's doing against the Giants. And I actually respect the ideal the ideology that he wants to give the receivers chances. That example with the running back is not an example of him giving a chance, but more so him just being ignorant to the fact that you can't do something like that. But the next point that I wanted to point to is I don't necessarily. Oh man. I don't necessarily want to say that, Haskins is in trouble to a degree, but he's just in a situation where the coaches expect him to be ready if he comes in as a backup. Both times, if we just pay attention to what the coaches are saying, both times he came in because of injury. Essentially. Now, Jay Gruden did tell him against the Giants they were looking for a spark. However, Case Keenum was also I think he injured his foot or something like that, and his foot was affecting his throws.
Yeah, that's true.
The second thing is this week, Case Keenum was being evaluated for a concussion, and that is why he started the second half. So, yes, and I said it against the Giants. It should be taken with a grain of salt, his evaluation for these first couple periods of performance. However, when you guys mentioned it, that he has not shown any growth from one period to another, that is something that you should note down. If you're a Redskins fan, you should note that. But at the same time, take it with a grain of salt, but just keep it there when you see him next time he gets on the field, that you didn't see any progress from 1 week from that Giants game to the Vikings game, and you need to know further along, like, is he still making the same mistakes? Because that's something that's worth noting. But he needs to be ready, regardless of if he's starting or not. He needs to be ready because he is that backup.
Yeah. Talking about this, it just makes me thinking about the situation that he's in. The running game is still in a situation where you don't necessarily know what you're going to get from 1 week to the next. So it's a little bit up and down. Outside of McLaurin, who he has a natural chemistry with because they have a history together, what's his real reliable receiving option?
Well, I mean, Paul Richardson had a better day today.
He had a better day, yeah, and that's about all you can say. He had a better day today because I really wouldn't call that a reliable receiving. All I'm trying to say is even his check down options are not as reliable as you would want them to be for a rookie quarterback like this. He can force the ball to McLaurin, or that's kind of it. Everybody else is kind of just not that reliable to depend on. So this is a tough thing for a situation for a rookie to walk in on without a lot of experience.
A lot of the stuff is his fault, though, Sean.
No, I agree. I'm not defending him too much. I agree.
I mean, look how the passing game looked pretty smooth with Case in there in the first half. It looked like it was progressing. Listen, I mean, we're talking relatively speaking from what it was. Well,
True.
It looked pretty good, and when when Haskins came in there, it kind of all fell apart. I actually kind of think in some ways this was a worse outing than the Giants. I mean, he didn't have the 3 interceptions, but he missed reads.
Mm-hmm.
He missed open receivers. The first pass he had, that was the check down to I forget who in the flat. I mean, and the broadcast team pointed out, hey, you got Terry McLaurin wide up in the middle of the field. I mean, he's not seeing that. I don't know. I mean, I'm not that worried about it. I think if you're calling Dwayne Haskins a bust, you, meaning you listeners, you're idiots.
Right.
He's played 4 quarters, in terrible situations. You're an idiot. You got to give him time. He does need time, and this kid is just not going to be ready immediately. Just not.
I think, I mean, big picture, you do have to remember all that and try and keep yourself patient, and that's not easy because I think fans are desperate to find something to cling to with this team. And as good as McLaurin's been, that alone ain't going to be enough. One good receiver isn't enough to, hang your hat on as a fan.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
nothing else is out there.
At this point, though, I do think leave this kid in. They're 1-7, for God's sakes. You have 10 days. You have 10 days.
Yeah.
And it's Buffalo at home. In Buffalo, in a home game coming up.
I think Buffalo's on the road, isn't it?
Buffalo's on the road.
On the road. But regardless, I mean, you have 10 days to get him ready, and then you have a bye week after that.
Right.
And you got the Jets. I mean, for God's sakes, just let this kid play. There is literally nothing. The season is over.
Right.
You know, you're not going to win 8 games in a row and go 9-7. That's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So just
shoot, Dan and Bruce probably think that.
they might. Yeah, they might. But I mean, the biggest idiots on the field are those two. You know.
Well, I won't be surprised if the team loses against Buffalo that Dan doesn't try and fire Bill Callahan too. You know,
that'd be inconceivably stupid.
Well, inconceivably stupid is our middle name here in Redskins land.
Is there such a thing? I don't think there is such a thing, Steve.
Look, we should switch to defense real quick because I want to bring something up.
Please do.
When Josh Norman came in on defense, our secondary falls apart anytime he's out there. Is it just me or?
Yes, it is just you. I'd like to point out that Stephon Diggs made Fabian Moreau look absolutely foolish.
He did
twice, you know. And you listen, the long sideline, you know, vertical route against Norman. Actually, he wasn't too bad at coverage. I mean, he got a little bit of separation on Norman because he's just faster. It wasn't horrible. You know, it was Stephon Diggs made everybody look foolish tonight.
Yeah, well, he's Stephon Diggs. He's one of the best.
Moreau far more than Norman. I personally, I mean, not that I'm not really defending him because he's not had a good season. He's not looked like himself, but I think he's getting a little bit too much blame for some of this stuff because he's just the latest. You know, we're back to another cycle of hatred of Josh Norman. I think a lot of what Diggs did it to everybody, particularly Fabian. You know, Fabian has not been good. Fabian's, frankly, I think, a disappointment of a draft pick.
Yeah, you know, I agree with you there, too.
You know, and again, so I didn't think Norman looked all that bad, you know, tonight against Diggs, considering who it was. Not that he was good, and just relax out there, people. I'm not really defending him. I'm just saying I think there's a lot of misplaced anger going his way.
Yeah, I don't know. I more or less agree. That's fair. I do think the situation with him has soured, and he may have overstayed his welcome here at this point. I don't.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. But I mean, he's not like the worst
rotten.
corner. He's not like the worst corner in the history of football, and
fair
he's
enough.
not the worst corner on the team in any stretch of the imagination. Has
No.
he been good? No. Does he need to leave? Probably so. Is he? I
mean, there's rumors that they're shopping him right now.
Yeah, but I just
It's
think
a good move.
to some extent it's like displaced Redskins anger has landed on Josh Norman again to a certain extent.
Yeah. No, that's fair. I mean, let's be honest about this defensively. This wasn't the worst showing ever. In fact, through through most of the game, we stayed relatively in it. Mm-hmm. At no point were they really running away with it. I mean, we stayed within striking distance for most of the game. So I think, how do you guys look at this? Is this another situation where they just get gassed? They're asked to do too much, and they can only hold out so much? I mean, yeah, it's pretty straightforward.
I think this defense was overrated from the start. I think the fan base, I think the Hogsty, I think all of us expected too much from this group. They're not as talented, and they're not as good, and they're not as well coached as they need to be. And they've just proven it. I mean, results talk. You know, results talk. Okay, fine. They clamped down on the 49ers in a monsoon. You know, hallelujah. But at the end of the day, I mean, they let Dalvin Cook and, you know, the guy we've never heard of before, you know, the backup, you know, Madison.
I feel bad because I don't know him.
I didn't know. Yeah, I didn't know him at all either. I was like, I mean, I saw his name and thought of.
Well, I forget his name. I've seen him play, but I forgot.
Alexander Madison.
Yeah.
His name.
Think like colonial times because like he's got the most colonial sounding name there is.
Yeah, maybe he has a relative who was a president.
Right.
You know.
So then give me, Steve, the problems on D. Give me the 3 biggest problems on defense.
Okay.
Players wise, I'm talking about. Give me 3 guys that are just underperforming, or you know that are really at the heart of this issue.
Well, John Bostic.
Okay.
He's the dude is a jag. Okay?
He's like a number 2. He was like our tackle leader tonight, wasn't he? Or close to.
No, it was Landon Collins. But, I mean, middle linebackers are going to do a lot of tackles in the 3-4 defense in particular, okay? So, John Bostic needs to go. Ryan Kerrigan needs to go.
I hate to say it, but I agree.
He's a complete zero in the run game. Always has been. He's not really getting any pressure on the defense or on the quarterback. Were it not for Matt Ioannidis, I think Matt Ioannidis, John Allen, those 2 guys are legit.
Payne too. Payne's
maybe. He's had his moments, but all the rest of these guys, I think Montez Sweat has been a huge disappointment. And I was,
quiet.
I was kind of alone in my view of this. But when I studied his college film, not that I'm any kind of expert, but I wrote a really long piece on him. He underwhelmed me massively when I studied his college film. And guess what? He underwhelms me massively in his pro film. And I don't see this. I never saw the 4.4 speed in college. I don't see it now. I think Montez Sweat has been a disappointment. Not to say he's a rookie; he could get better. So, I think the strength of the defense, Matt Ioannidis, John Allen, and Deron Payne, probably number 3. But other than that, all of them need to go, as far as I'm concerned. They're all overrated, and the scheme isn't helping. Their problem is if one guy gets out of place, there's huge rushing lanes. They don't know what to do about it. Their safeties are terrible. The non-Landon Collins safety is terrible.
Yeah, whoever is going to be right now.
Yeah, Jeremy Reeves, Troy Apke, DeShazier Everett, Monte Nicholson, all those guys need to go.
Yeah.
Well, I think the problem is none of them are a true single high type safety, and that's what they need.
They're just not good.
Well, yeah, but they need somebody who really can be rangy up there if you're going to have Collins underneath.
So you're not putting much of this blame on scheme, Steve. You're
Some
putting
of it.
most of this on
I've
personnel.
never liked the scheme very much because the scheme is sort of predicated on getting a ton of pressure and being disruptive in the front 3, and they can to a certain extent, but they can't do it for 4 quarters consistently. They can't defend the rush consistently.
Yeah.
And so if you're going to do that, they just don't have the edge rushers and the linebackers to blitz a lot. They're just not talented enough.
Yeah. There was a fourth down or third down. We rushed 2 people.
Right. Sorry, Jamal. Were you
I was going to say, I was going to say to what Steve was saying. Well, I don't know if it lagged on my end too. Sean, were you speaking? Because it was lagging on my end.
Oh no, go ahead.
Yeah, we're having a little technical issue here tonight, folks. But go ahead, Jamal.
Okay. All right. So no, I was just gonna point to the fact that I don't know if I said it on here previously or for maybe it was just Twitter, because I know I was talking to my friend, but I don't know if I said it on any platforms or anything. At one point, you're just going to have to, because Steve, you already spoke on it anyway, so I'm not going to go too far into it. But at some point, you're just going to have to realize that you don't have the players as well. Like they're just not that. Like defensively, you can point to scheme as much as you want to, but at what point are you going to realize that the talent isn't there? Like people would assume they were. And matter of fact, Steve, I do remember you previously saying that the talent was overrated. Mm-hmm. And it took me a while to accept that truth because I thought it was. I didn't think they were overrated, but more so, I thought they were just where they needed to be respectively, especially on the defensive line. But they're just not as good as people thought they would have been, or they're just not. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that. It's really not that good. You can't keep saying coaching is the issue. These guys just don't. They're not that talented.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, blame Jim Tomsula all you want. It's not going to change the fundamental truth that this team isn't nearly as talented as everybody thought on defense. And let me tell you something. Other than Landon Collins, their entire secondary needs to go. Okay? I mean, Josh Norman.
I'm cool with Monte, though.
What's that?
I said I'm cool. I was saying I'm cool with
Monte.
Though.
I mean, Monte's okay. I mean, I don't think he's anything special. Is he really a plus safety out there? I mean, do you think he is, Jamal? I mean, I don't have a problem with him necessarily, but I don't think he's,
he hasn't. In my view, like at that position for us, the Redskins. I gotta stop saying us. They don't represent me. I don't represent losers. Yeah. But
exactly.
The way what he's doing for the Redskins is more so. He's not doing any harm per se, but he's not like elite talent or he doesn't show that potential that he showed in his rookie year, 2017. But he's not regressed.
Yeah.
He's just been what he is.
Yeah, I mean,
so I don't have a problem with him. That's all.
And Quentin Dunbar's had a good year. I mean, I forget about him. He was pretty quiet today.
Well, he got hurt midway through. That's why.
Yeah, he did. Oh, yeah. And by the way, injuries. It was Dunbar, hamstring, and Keenum concussion. That was injuries. But just generally speaking, this defense just isn't what we thought it was. It's not going to be what we hoped it was.
Yeah.
They've proven it over and over again. They can't put 4 quarters together. They haven't all year, with the exception of the Dolphins. And even then, against those Dolphins, when Fitzmagic came in, they looked completely different.
They really only put together 3 quarters. It just was just enough.
Right. To beat an atrocious team.
Yeah.
So today, Dalvin Cook was who we thought he was. Elite running back. What can you say? Stephon Diggs, the keys to the game. What were the keys to the game that we talked about, Sean? It was you got to, keep Dalvin Cook from controlling the game and keep Stephon Diggs from making big plays. They did neither one.
Right.
Yep.
And truth of the matter is the Vikings should have had a lot more points and didn't. That's
truth
of the matter.
Yeah, exactly. We all predicted somewhere in the 20s.
We should have had more points, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we're the Redskins, and we know when that's not going to happen. We scored.
You got a point. You got a point.
Yeah. So,
they've had how many? They've had 1 touchdown in 3 weeks. Did we get 2 touchdowns against the Dolphins?
Oh my goodness! Yeah, we had 2. Yeah. We haven't scored a touchdown in I think 9 quarters.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we've
quarters.
had 2 touchdowns in a month.
Yep.
Right.
Superstars.
Okay, guys, we're at 30 minutes. Do we want to do game balls and get out of here?
Yeah, this is Hogstye late night, and it's really late, and
Yes.
we could babble endlessly forever. But yeah,
Well, Big got me on the VIP list, y'all. Let's hurry
Yep.
up.
All right, game balls.
Kick us off.
I'm going to go first just to get it out of the way. Hopkins is the only one who scored, so he's going to be my offensive guy. And on defense, let's go Payne for the fumble.
Okay, I'm going to give my game ball to Adrian Peterson. He had a good game. He was a warrior out there.
Got to top 6 or whatever.
Yeah, he was playing with a really mangled ankle. Averaged 5.5 yards a carry. So Adrian Peterson gets the game ball from me, and this defense. None of them really deserve a game ball, to be honest. Just because I don't want to give it to the other team for 2 weeks in a row. I'm going to give Landon Collins a game ball for having 11 tackles. By default. He gets my default game ball.
Nice. Well said. Okay, I'll follow you up then, Steve. I think I'm going to go, I think I'm going to agree with you. I'll give it to Peterson. I don't know. Love the dude. Shining light, not going to be on the team for very long. But I'm going to give it to him. Defense, yeah, let's just give it to Collins and call it a night. Tackle leader, you get it, buddy.
Yep.
Oh, it ends there because I ain't giving no game balls out.
It's totally valid, Jamal. That's
All
fair.
right.
I did it. I did it twice just for the sake of the show. The one win, and then I forgot. I think it was last week.
No, yeah, I think you did the first 2 or 3 weeks, and then you gave, and then you stopped for a while until we won.
See, y'all criticizing me for giving the other team game balls, and Jamal gets to slide on his no game ball thing.
Oh, I'm just being honest. Look, I'm done.
Hey, at least he's not turncoating like you are.
Yeah.
But
I don't see the benefit at all.
you don't see. But what was my game ball not accurate last week? Let's not relive last week.
Well, you gave it to
Yeah,
Matt
what we should
Ioannidis and
do-
Jimmy Garoppolo.
What we should do from now on, since this is a lost season, we should do something at the end instead of doing game balls. We should say one positive thing about the Redskins before we sign off, and just leave it at that instead of getting game balls. One thing about the game that worked out well that you liked.
Okay,
leave
well,
it at
Jamal,
that.
start off since you didn't give a game ball. What's
Hey,
your
this
one
is the
thing?
end of the show. I'm talking about upcoming weeks.
He's saying
I'm trying to put you on the spot.
next week.
Okay, don't want to be
put
put
me
on the spot. Okay.
Yeah.
All
All
right.
right, we'll save that for Bills. Okay, awesome. Then we'll leave it there. That'll be the show tonight, and we will be back with a preview episode for the Bills game. Until then, check back with us online. We'll see you all next time, right here on the Hogstye. Take care.
In 1957, Laika became the first animal to orbit Earth. What kind of animal was Laika?
What is the only team in the Big Four North American sports leagues which shares its name with one of the Avengers?
And here's one more question for you. Are you the type of person who enjoys playing trivia games, learning new things, and having a bit of fun along the way?
If you are, or if you just want to find out the answers to those other questions, then our podcast, Quiz and Hers, might be right up your alley.
Each week, one of us writes new trivia questions for the other person, covering everything from science to history to pop culture to sports.
And every question in a game relates to some theme, like Game of Thrones,
Internet memes,
sandwiches,
or animals in space.
Some of the themes make more sense than others.
So if you like trivia, learning, or real couples testing each other's knowledge and patience, check out our podcast, Quiz and Hers, part of the Big Heads Media Podcast Network.
Quiz and Hers, the trivia podcast where we test each other's knowledge and the strength of our relationship.